Yeah, so thank you again, Dr. Cox. And today we would like to start by asking you if you can comment and explain us a bit more about the relationship between the UK Biocentre and the UK Biobank.
Yes, so UK Biocentre grew out of the UK Biobank effort. When UK Biobank was set up, the technology and the processes and the expertise that it developed were really focused on the biobank cohort, but it became clear that there were many other projects that could potentially benefit from using that expertise if it could have access to it. Sure. So what happened was that UK Biobank spun out UK Biocentre as a service arm, really, okay. A company that was capable of supporting those sort of services to other customers other than just the biobank cohort study.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So you joined almost like a year ago, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So can you give us a brief history of like your working life and your involvement in activities around biobanking and cohort studies and how you end up here?
Sure. Yeah. So originally I'm a molecular biologist by training. So my PhD was in plant molecular biology.
Nice.
And I did that at the Royal Botanics Gardens at Kew.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was absolutely I spent 9 years at Kew, and it was the most fantastic place to work. It
yeah,
really
I live in Hammersmith, so I go to Kew, like we have the membership. I go there often. It's a special place.
It really is fabulous, yeah. And just as I was going there as a PhD student, they just were starting up a new molecular systematics laboratory because
Nice.
DNA sequencing was just beginning to sort of take off as an affordable process. So I joined and set up a molecular lab there and started DNA sequencing. And I was there for the best part of 9 years doing pure research in plant systematics and evolution. And after that, I moved on to the Sanger Institute, or the Sanger Centre as it was then. It became the Institute a few years later, to join the Human Genome Project. And I did that as a computer programmer, and I developed informatics skills while I was working at Kew, and so became more interested in doing that really than staying in the laboratory. So I went to Sanger to do some programming and software development, and I stayed there throughout the Human Genome Project.
That must have been a very exciting time.
It was a fantastic time. It was really, really exciting, and just one of the most wonderful projects to be able to work on and contribute to.
Yeah, I bet.
And then after the Human Genome Project was finished, I sort of did several roles, but more latterly at Sanger, I took on the research and development group for the high throughput sequencing and genotyping operation. So I was able to sort of mix both my molecular biology and lab background with the software development side, and my role was to develop and improve the high throughput sequencing processes that delivered all of the sort of the large scale data collection at Sanger for sequencing.
Nice. Yeah, so you said you were working at Sanger for more than 15 years. So you like, what was the highlight of your time there? I guess working on the Human Genome Project.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There are distinct phases where there were big projects, but there were also sort of big changes. So the Human Genome Project obviously was just a massive achievement, and the Sanger was one of the largest contributors to that project overall. So I'm very proud of the organization and what it did there. But once that was finished, there were several very interesting phases where next generation sequencing arrived, and we did a sort of a massive ramp up in our sequencing operation. And more latterly, another very big ramp up to take on the sequencing of the UK Biobank cohort, which was a huge undertaking. And required, a significant change and improvement of our processes. So there have been lots of highlights.
I'm sure. And how has your journey so far been as a CEO of the UK Biocentre in these last 12 months? Challenging months.
I think I could only describe it as interesting, in quotation marks. It's not really quite turned out like I expected it to be. I was really expecting to come here and focus on delivering high throughput processing for cohort studies, for customers, designing high throughput processes and working with the team here to improve and deliver those. But after just 6 weeks of being here, of course, it all changed.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. And so first I wanted to ask you, how's the UK Biocentre catering to the biobanking world with the services that it offers?
Well, when COVID arrived, we actually put all of our core business projects, as we call them, aside. We effectively sort of hibernated all of our projects because we were asked to focus entirely on setting up the testing. But by the middle of last year and the autumn, we had developed a plan to bring all of our existing projects back online. And now we've activated all of our projects. So we are back in business in terms of supporting large cohort studies, and we are routinely processing many samples that are coming through the door. I mean, to a certain extent, the volume of samples is still impacted by COVID because a lot of the sample collection clinics are working at reduced capacity during these sort of lockdown conditions. But we're very much back and in terms of delivering on our old projects before COVID started.
Yeah, so you mentioned this very large sample cohort. So you employ a very industrialized kind of automated operation. And so what are the advantages to cohort studies and biobanks in this operating mode?
Well, I mean, clearly cohort studies are evolving to the point where if you want to extract genetic signals which are small and complex, it's driving the size of cohort studies to be very big. And you need to be able to deliver large cohort studies, you need complex logistics to be able to collect and move samples around in large numbers. But also you need highly automated infrastructure to be able to receive those samples, process them quickly at high quality, and to be able to turn around data and processing at speed for a customer. And to do that all at the best possible price. So the future really of these large cohort studies is in increasing levels of automation to deliver value.
Yeah. So going back to the national testing program, so the UK Biocentre is really at the forefront of the UK national testing program. So can you tell us a bit more how the Biocentre became one of the Lighthouse Labs?
Yeah, well, so the UK Biocentre is part funded by the National Institute of Health Research here in the UK. So we already had strong links into the Department of Health. And so it was natural really for them to identify us as a potential provider of laboratory services. So I got a phone call on the 19th of March where a request from Professor John Bell to repurpose our laboratory to deliver COVID testing. And that really was the changing point for us as a laboratory in in answering this request. So from that day on, we were planning how to set all of our current projects aside in terms of, and sort of hibernate them, and then bring new laboratories online to start the testing process.
Yeah, so my next question on the list would have been to ask you how the national testing program affected the core business, but you've already touched on that. So the business has grown considerably over the last 9 months. It's gone from 45 people to over 500. So what have been the biggest challenge for you as a CEO over this period, and what you've learned in these interesting and exciting times of growth?
I think, I mean, growth has been tremendous. Like you say, we started with only 45 employees, where now we will shortly be over 900.
Wow.
So, you know, the growth over that time has been, we've grown in a month what a normal company would grow in a year. So it's compressed everything. And it's put quite a lot of strain on various parts of the organization because it has to grow very quickly. It's not only just the laboratory that has to grow, but all of the support services, you know, logistics, our warehouse, our purchasing, procurement, HR. You know, the HR operation alone to find people to employ has had to grow enormously. So I think bringing that all together, trying to keep it all coordinated, has been certainly been my biggest challenge. But I'm very lucky. I have a fantastic management team around me, and they have been remarkable in stepping up to the challenge over the last months.
Yeah, I'm sure even just the logistics side of it must have been very challenging.
Absolutely huge. Yes. We've had to completely replan our warehouse. In fact, the army arrived as a sort of to support us, because they obviously have, you know, sophisticated logistics sort of systems and structures, and they came and helped us to completely replan our warehouse, helped us with our new processes. So yeah, the British Army was absolutely fantastic.
That's amazing to hear that you had so much support from the government. Yeah. So now looking a bit at the future with the rollout of the vaccines, what's your advice regarding the administration of the vaccine in the UK or in the US? What do you think how we are doing it?
Well, I mean, clearly the vaccination is the way out of this awful situation.
For sure.
It's critical that we can deliver the vaccine to as many people as quickly as possible. So, you know, the infrastructure and planning around the delivery of that has got to be very strong. And I think we're very fortunate in the United Kingdom. We've got a very strong planning and delivery process for our vaccines, it's essential that people go out and get vaccinated. It is as I said, it's the only way that we will get out of this awful place we're in. Yeah,
I definitely agree. And yeah, so regarding the projects that you offer service to, have you seen a significant influx of projects related to COVID-19?
Yes, very much so. I think partly because we're linked to the actual testing process now. I think we've been able to explain how we have got some facilities and infrastructure at UK Biocentre, which is really nowhere else in the UK. So we have highly automated storage systems for up to 20 million samples to be stored at -80. We've been able to offer storage services to COVID projects that it's clear that to understand not only this epidemic, but the development of future ones, having a very large collection of samples is going to be a way to dissect exactly how these viruses work, what we can do to counter them. And having that almost like a national collection of COVID samples, I think is going to be critical for and immensely valuable for future years of research, which is clearly going to go on. So we can certainly offer that facility to store, you know, endless numbers of samples very efficiently and very quickly. So we've had quite a large number of projects and requests to store samples as a result of our involvement.
Yeah, so I'm sure the UK Biocentre will be more and more important even in the future for, as you said.
I hope so. I hope so. Yes, we want to very much play our part as a centre for supporting the infrastructure around COVID research and the sort of the various operational programs to deal with it.
Yeah, so linked to that, how has the UK Biocentre repositioned itself to serve its customer in this pandemic? Of course, like offering storage solutions, like you mentioned, and COVID related.
Yeah, so I think we obviously, you know, we've set up testing. We can test up to 100,000 samples a day now, it's around being able to offer all of the support around that activity. I mean, we've had to broaden our organization because we can't stop doing all of the projects that we used to do. It's very important for the scientific sort of validity of those studies that they can carry on. So we've had to grow the organization to allow it to accommodate not only a sample receipt, processing and storage operation, but also to deliver diagnostic services. And I think that's broadened the operational skills base of the organization. And I hope that we will be able to sort of broaden that in the future and offer, you know, more value and increased value to our future collaborators and customers.
I'm sure you will. So how do you see the UK Biocentre in the next 12 to 18 months? Hopefully we'll be out of this situation.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I certainly hope so. I think from the UK Biocentre's point of view, I think I'm very keen to ensure that we keep the skills that we have developed, the know-how, the expertise that we have developed over the last year. Before the COVID pandemic, we didn't offer diagnostic services, but now we have developed those skills. We've got, you know, high quality ISO accreditation to support diagnostics. I think we would want to carry on doing that, and I think you know, we've got we've got a good range of organizational capabilities to not only, you know, continue biobanking, but also to do testing, orthodox testing, but also diagnostic testing. I think there's a lot of synergy about being able to offer logistics, processing, storage, but then also subsequent analysis of that all under one roof. So you've got an end-to-end set of services that integrate for the customer.
Yeah, so like a package, a complete package from...
Exactly, and I think that's going to become increasingly valuable because as studies become larger and larger, the overhead of doing this particular type of this part of the process becomes less and less achievable for, you know, what we might call normal size labs. You have to resort to specialist automation, and there are particular skill sets around high throughput processing which are sort of, you know, important to have.
Yeah, I'm sure that outsourcing is gonna become more and more a common procedure, even more in the future.
Yes.
And so we said that you had a very challenging and interesting first 12 months at the UK Biocentre. So what do you see as the major challenges for the biobanking industry in the next 5 years, hopefully, again, when we are out of this?
Yeah, I think, well, like I said, I think, you know, cohort studies are going to grow significantly to achieve the statistical power that they need to dissect ever smaller genetic signals. So I think we can look forward to bigger studies, and they will need to, you know, careful design and the processing infrastructure to support them. I think COVID has really shone a spotlight on the requirement for a national diagnostic infrastructure network of laboratories, not only to deliver testing, but also all of the support and logistical and storage services that are necessary to make that very successful. And I hope one of the sort of the legacies of the COVID pandemic will be that, you know, organizations like Biocentre will become part of that national infrastructure. It's a huge opportunity, and I hope we don't sort of let it slip through our fingers.
Sure. Yeah, and a last bit more personal question. So, what keeps you grounded in your personal life, everyday life, in these turbulent times? As I'm sure everyone's mental health is affected, and we all have to do our best to keep sane.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in some ways, the pandemic in terms of work has not really, I mean, a lot of people have been locked down, they've been isolated in, you know, where they live. It's been almost completely the opposite for me and a lot of people I work with. You know, it's been, not only has it been work as normal, but it's been, you know, increased work. And, you know,
Yeah.
So it's been extremely busy, and I don't get an awful lot of time off. But I think it is important to take time off, and the things that I do, I have hobbies that I do, you know, I love DIY and various. I think it's important to do things which consume your mind when you are doing something different, because I think although your mind might be busy, if you're doing something completely different, that acts as a sort of the change is good. So I enjoy doing, you know, I'm a bit of a maker. I do hobby with electronics, and then I like DIY. I do all sorts of things really, but they kind of just take my mind away from what goes on here.
You focus and
Yeah,
think about. Okay, so thank you very much again for your time, and we'll send you the link to the article when we publish it. And
great, thank you very much.
And all the best of luck with everything, and thank you for all your services.
Thank you very much. Very nice to talk to you.
Very nice to talk to you. Bye.
Bye-bye, Ariana.
Bye.
Bye-bye.